We want you to be able to focus on patient care and spending more deliberate time with your patients. And so injecting more AI capabilities into the EMR is super important to us. We launched an integration with a partner, DeepCura, which is an AI scribe that was specifically built for the healthcare market. A lot of people signed on to use it right away, and it has made such a difference in their practice. A lot of them are able to just actively listen to their patients now. That's what we just keep hearing. And then it's reducing that human error. Our roadmap for the very near future is just injecting more AI capabilities into the EMR.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Nico Misleh Podcast. It's me, Nico, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Lauren, and she is with Optimantra. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Optimantra is an amazing EHR, or electronic health record system, or EMR, even if you want to call it that, electronic medical record system. We have been using, as in Sherelle and I, my wife, have been using Optimantra since the inception of our clinic, which is Apollo Health Optimization, and we've just really loved it. It's super simple and clean and straightforward and has everything you need. And anyways, they've been amazing, and they've partnered with us on the HRT University side to help our students and colleagues and providers have the best access to, again, what I think is one of the better EMRs out there for sure. So I have Lauren here with us, and I'm really excited to ask her some questions. But first, Lauren, welcome. And would you please kind of just give us a little bit of your background and how you ended up with Optimantra and what you do for Optimantra specifically?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Nico. And it's been great working with you in the university over the past few months. Like you mentioned, I'm Lauren. I'm based out of Connecticut. I am Optimantra's head of growth. I lead up our marketing and sales teams here. I've been with Opti since February of this year. And prior to my joining, Opti really didn't do any kind of marketing. So around for a long time and grew off of word of mouth and a few small partnerships. So this year has been really about getting Optimantra in front of the people, and it's been really exciting to watch us grow. So thanks for having us.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. Not unlike Optimantra, both of my businesses have been really heavy, organic, word of mouth, all that kinds of stuff. So I love businesses like that because there's something obviously interesting and wonderful about them. And then now we get to spice it up a little bit more with your help. So that's amazing. Do you know, just offhand, kind of the background of like where Optimantra came from? Like what was its origin story?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting story. So founded in 2012 by Akhil Singh, who is currently our CEO. And he was actually seeing an Ayurveda doctor who focused really more on a holistic approach to patient care. He was seeing her for his allergies. And she knew he was in the tech space, and she asked him if he would help her locate an EMR for her to use in her practice. And so Akhil set out looking for an EMR that would fit her needs, and he really just found that most of the EMRs at the time were really built for hospital and large medical practices. So they didn't have the robust intake processes that she needed, patient follow-up tools, ERX, labs, inventory management. So instead of saying, okay, I'm done, I did some research, Akhil decided to build one from scratch for her. So thus Optimantra was born. And so Akhil built it with the intent of serving functional and integrative providers who wanted to take more of a whole person approach to patient care. And yeah, it grew from there. And again, like I said earlier, word of mouth and just some early adopters that spread the news about this really comprehensive platform. And it's just grown ever since.
That's awesome. I love that. Especially growing up myself in kind of the integrative medicine, functional medicine space. It's probably in some weird way what drew me towards Optimantra. Like not only did it have, the typical like e-prescribe and, lab reports and things that I feel like any medical provider would need. But it also had that flair of like, hey, we have like Fullscript integrated, which is awesome. So like I'm a big supplement guy. I recommend supplements all day long. And, back in the day, I would have to like write them out or like send a Google Doc and links to the different websites and find all these supplements. So that has been tremendously helpful. So again, I'm kind of a sucker. I love that slightly more integrative functional medicine background. And frankly, I think it really separates Optimantra in a lot of ways from other EHRs. And I think a lot of EHRs are actually even now kind of copying Optimantra in that sense. Do you get that sense as well?
I mean, there's a lot more EMRs in the market than there were before, and a lot of them, call it copying, but a lot of them are following a similar structure where they've identified that need for like customization within the EMR. I think a lot of them were a little more rigid and a little more restrictive, and people are viewing EMRs now as a one-stop shop where you could do your marketing within them. You can do, your patient care plan building. I think especially as we're seeing like an increase in expanded access for healthcare and telehealth and just more opportunities to see more folks. You need an EMR that can kind of grow with you and adjust to kind of a change in the healthcare industry.
Yeah. So if you would, like most of my providers and colleagues who are part of HRT University, for example, most of them, obviously, they own cash-based clinics.
Mhm.
Most of them are in the, let's just say, wellness space at large. Like, how do you feel Optimantra best serves those particular providers and businesses as opposed to maybe some of the other ones out there?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the flexibility. So, I mean, like I touched on before, the customization, you're able to really set up your workflows for what works best for your practice. And what we're seeing is a lot of folks are moving more towards that membership and packaging model. And so building out those within the system and being able to take cash payments or maybe a hybrid. We're seeing a lot of blended practices where they want to serve, people who want to use their insurance versus they just want to take cash pay. So having an EMR that is flexible enough to handle both of those is really important.
Amen. I love that. Do you see, what, at least from my perspective, one of the things I know that patients, especially more and more and more so, are interested in is like, I need also my, not only my provider side of the EHR to be really awesome, but now the kind of patient facing side to be awesome in terms of like the portal and like how patients access their medical records and labs. And, if they have questions, how do they message us and all those sorts of things? Like, how has Optimantra kind of adjusted for that growing demand? And like, what do you see Optimantra really doing amazing when it comes to more the patient facing side of the EMR, EHR?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, we really expanded our development team this past year with an emphasis on the patient side because I do think that sometimes you look at the provider side more so, and then the patient side maybe suffers a little bit. So, the nice thing with ours is the patient portal is accessible through an app or web based. You're able to customize it for your practice. A lot of folks want to, make sure the branding is consistent. You're able to embed it right on your site, change the coloring, add your logos. And then patient communication is so important. So we make sure that there's a few different areas for access. So HIPAA compliant patient portal messaging that comes with any base packaging. And that's primarily how people interact with their providers. But we also offer two-way texting. So some folks prefer just to communicate via text. So we offer HIPAA compliant texting in that way, group text to patients in case you have a new service or offering. So really making sure that you have multiple channels that you can communicate with your patients while ensuring that, of course, it's compliant.
Yeah, I love that. Lauren, a couple things I'd be curious about. A lot of the providers probably listening right now, they may or may not use Optimantra, but let's focus on the ones who maybe aren't using Optimantra. Like, how would they benefit? So, okay, they're HRTU providers. They've taken the course. They've invested in that, which is amazing. Thank you. And now they're shopping around. Now they're saying, hey, if I'm not using Optimantra, like what would this partnership, what would be special about what HRT University and Optimantra are doing as opposed to working with another EHR? Or even they don't maybe have a business quite just yet, but they're looking to start one, and which EHR to choose. Like, what would make it so special? Like, maybe share a little bit about what we've got going on as partners.
Sure. So I think that, our close collaboration provides a lot of benefits to people looking for EMRs. So the main thing is that our team and your team collaborated on vetted HRT tailored consents, questionnaires, and charting templates so that when an HRTU graduate comes to us and says, I want to get started, but I don't really know where to start, we're able to pre-populate into their account these vetted, set up forms that they're set ready to launch. So you're setting yourself up for success. You know that you've gone through the course, you know the best practices, and you're going to have like the correct forms already set up in there. which is just like a great benefit for going from the HRTU right to us.
Yeah, it's funny when we first started working together. I think you brought that to my attention as like, hey, I think this would be really helpful. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like, of course, what a dream come true. When I first started my clinic, that was arguably one of the hardest things, which was like, okay, like what kind of forms are out there? What should be on there? How do I structure them? Are there some legal things and jargon that I need to add in there? Also, how do I upload them if I'm creating my own, and blah, 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 blah. It was very stressful. I mean, we went through several different ones until we ended up with the iteration we have now. And so I think it's amazing for especially those who, again, maybe you have a very successful wellness clinic and you're just now adding HRT, and you're not trying to go through that whole hassle of coming up with all these different types of documents or stealing some from your friends and then having to like customize them. They're just like ready to rock and roll. They're good to go. And again, super well vetted and all that sorts of stuff. So I love that. I think that's great. I'm looking at some of my other questions here. Do you happen to have any like success stories? I mean, not yet necessarily even with an HRTU member per se, but any success stories of people who maybe have HRT clinics and had a different type of EHR, transitioned over to Optimantra. Like, tell me a little bit about people who've gone, because I'll tell you, it's a huge nightmare for a provider to have to like, oh my gosh, like my whole world lives on this EHR and I really don't like it, but just the fear of having to move everybody over and change everything, like how big of a lift is that? And how do you guys help? And again, do you have any kind of silver linings or success stories for people who have done that in the past?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we have thousands of NPs that use Optimantra every day to manage their practices. And I would say some of the bigger success stories, and you're right, that it is so daunting to either start with an EMR or to switch from a pre-existing EMR. And I think when some of them come to Optimantra and they see how robust it is, can almost feel like a deterrent, like, oh my gosh, there's so much I could do here. Where do I wrap my head? How do I wrap my head around it? And so I think where we've seen the most success is we have a really great support channel, an onboarding team. And so everyone that comes into Optimantra, they're meeting with somebody on our onboarding team to make sure, okay, let's make sure that your scheduling is set up properly. Let's make sure your billing side looks clean. Let's input all of the forms that make the most sense for your business and set up your templates your way. So while our system is so robust and can be overwhelming, I think where we see the most success and where we hear the most, call it praise for Opti, is the hand-holding and the guidance that we provide in the initial setup. And I think some of our partnerships, like, of course, with HRTU, coming in with forms and templates that they're familiar with already and they're comfortable with, it takes away some of that initial scariness and how do I get started? Because we tailor it to your practice.
Mm-hmm. That's a great answer. One of the things I can definitely vouch for, again, I've, in my lifetime as an RN and then as a nurse practitioner and NP, I've used probably tens of different EHRs from, big insurance clinics to little teeny rinky dink, cash-based clinics. And your guys' customer service is unbelievably outstanding. And again, you would hope that everybody's is, but truly it's not. And when you are in the line of medicine, working with very complicated cases and something happens or you need to figure something out, like all of a sudden that customer service element becomes hugely important. In fact, am I saying his name? Is it Akhil, who's the CEO?
Yes.
It's funny. When I first started using Optimantra, he was like the first person to reach out like, hey, I'm going to help you with onboarding. And I remember thinking like, what? Like, this is like the CEO. Granted, this was years and years ago. But anyways, it was just super cool. Like it felt very familiar and very casual and cordial in a lot of ways, but like super professional. We submit tickets a lot and you guys listen to them, like actually listen to them and come back with really great answers. Huge support database. Like, again, you can just probably search practically any question you can think of. So again, I'm vouching for you guys because I've never come across an EHR that has that element to it. And it is, again, you can find some fancy bells and whistles out there, but when it comes to crunch time or when it comes to like, hey, this would be really important for my practice. If we could, if Optimantra would be willing to consider adding something like this in, it's amazing how often you guys find ways to do that. So kudos. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And
Lauren, can you
I'm
tell
sorry.
me? Oh, please. No, please.
Yeah, what I was just going to add there too is I think what sets us apart is a lot of the initial employees. So our demo team and our support team, they were originally Opti users. So as we grew, a lot of our support team, they're actually practitioners who have sat in, your shoes before. They've opened their own practices. They've used Optimantra for a reason, and they know how to make it work for your practice. So I think that's really unique too, it's a testament to our support team where I think that we're a little bit more hands-on because we know what it's like to be working on a Saturday and, oh my gosh, the system isn't working in the way I intended it to. And we have a phone line that is active 7 days a week. I think that's a little unique too against other EMRs. So I think having a large majority of our employees that have worked in the healthcare space in some capacity makes such a difference.
It's so important. I mean, even I'm thinking back in the day when I used some of those, I won't necessarily name them, but giant names in the EMR space and the big, hospital systems. None of the support people I talked to had any clue about anything around medicine. And again, I'm not like disparaging them, but like what a difference that makes when you're like, hey, dude, I've been in your shoes before. In fact, literally in this exact same situation. Here's how we can help. Amazing. Like what an incredible thing. Lauren, can you tell us, I mean, you guys are literally always pumping out. I swear it's a new thing every week. I feel like there's something new that Optimantra is doing, which is amazing. Can you, I mean, you don't have to like spill the beans here necessarily, but can you give us a sense of like new innovations that have maybe recently come out or maybe things that you could share with us that are soon to be coming out that, and then you think are maybe going to be huge game changers for those of us in this kind of like, cash-based clinic medical space?
Yeah, definitely. I think what you'll hear from everybody is that AI, it's here to stay. And so injecting more AI capabilities into the EMR is super important to us as we want you to be able to focus on patient care and spending more deliberate time with your patients. And so our first foray into the AI space was a few months ago. We launched an integration with a partner, DeepCura, which is an AI scribe that was specifically built for the healthcare market. And we were really pleasantly surprised with the adoption rate. A lot of people signed on to use it right away, and it has made such a difference in their practice. A lot of them are able to just actively listen to their patients now. That's what we just keep hearing, that I'm not focused on making sure I'm writing down everything. I'm having an engaged conversation. And then it's reducing that human error. So it's saving them time where they're not having to reformat their notes into their templates. They're not having to worry that they mistyped something or they didn't listen actively to the patient because they were too busy typing. So it's giving a little bit more freedom in that regard. So our roadmap for the very near future is just injecting more AI capabilities into the EMR, and not ones that, we're not going to have the AI recommend
Yeah,
diagnosis,
right.
but it's really just areas where, hey, you could be saving time. You're bogging yourself down with workflows that AI can very easily solve for. So that's one exciting initiative. And then on the other side, and you're right, our dev team is releasing things at such a rapid rate. I feel like I'm not up to speed yet, but integrations has just been kind of at the forefront for us this year. We want your EMR, like we spoke about earlier, to be this one-stop shop, and so that all of your tools are communicating with it, and you kind of have this, you know, pane of glass that you could just look at and get a full picture for your business. And so last week we did an integration with Outlook Calendar so that your appointments on Outlook and everything will communicate within the EMR. We have a couple more very exciting integrations coming out soon with a CRM. So you'll be able to connect your CRM directly with Opti. And then just some more tools that you'll have in your practice and using on a day-to-day. So really AI and integrations, that's the near future for us, and it's exciting.
I love it. I love it. And to speak to that for a moment, because everybody's going to have a question about the AI thing.
Mhm.
First of all, I love your guys' approach. I mean, I think that's the best way to use AI, right? Is like, hey, how can we create more time for us to be human beings with each other and less time us spending on these computers? Amazing. So when you're saying it's integrated, just to clarify for people, this is not like pull up this window over here and then pull up your EHR over here and then patient speaks and you speak. It collects all that information. Now you got to go and like copy and paste that and find places to put it in the chart. If I'm not mistaken, the Deep Cura integration with Optimantra, it's like you guys speak and it's just filling out the chart, right? It's in that same window, relatively speaking.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty spot on. So you'll have
Okay.
the Deep Cura template open, it'll be actively listening, and then once you're done, you're able
Right.
to just click a button and it imports it right
Okay.
into the system, and then it sorts it in whatever format you'd like as well. And you're also able to extract data from it. It can give summaries, it can give recommendations for ICD codes. So it really
Amazing.
has, and they are also adding new features week by week. I'm struggling to keep up with them as well. So it's really exciting.
That's awesome. No, I love that. In terms of like, and this, you've kind of already answered this question, but I might dig a little deeper. Like, where do you see the future of EHRs going? Obviously, we've got this thing called AI now, kind of interjecting into the space. Do you see Optimantra leaning into that more and more? Do you see other EHRs maybe not doing that so much? Like, how is Optimantra trying to continue to stand out in what I think is like a arguably very competitive space?
Yeah, and I think what sets us apart is, the drive from our product team. I mean, Akil, who made this solely because he saw someone who had a need. He's really plugged into the needs of a practice and what could make their practice run smoother. So you're right. I've seen us release a lot of functionality that other EMRs start releasing 5 to 6 months, maybe after we've already gone through the beta phase. So I think the future for HRT in the HRT space regarding EMRs is just more integrations, more automations, and just enhancing that patient experience. Um, yeah.
Lauren, I know you've also kind of answered this question too a little bit, but I'm certain we're going to have providers listening to this who are like, "Oh man, I've been sitting on the fence, thinking
Mhm.
about maybe using a different EHR, or again, maybe I'm thinking about starting my own business and just wondering which one I should pick." Top to bottom, left to right, like why should a provider seriously consider Optimantra? Like, you've hit so many amazing things, but if a provider who's busy and overwhelmed and looking at this as even like almost an investment, like, why should a provider go with Optimantra?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the last few months, I've been attending a lot of trade shows and getting to interface with a lot of our potential prospects. And, after I give my 30-second overview of what Opti does and what we include, a lot of, I wouldn't call it pushback, but a lot of feedback is, gosh, it's too robust. I'm just starting out. I'm not going to see more than
Mhm.
5 or 10 patients my first few months. Like, it's just too much in one system. And what I kind of implore them to think about is, well, think more than short term. So you want to, when you're setting up your practice, you want to make sure that your tech stack is set up for success. And that's your EMR, your CRM, your website. You don't want to look at, okay, well, I know in the first few months, I'm only going to do these small list of services. Well, where do you see your practice in 2 to 3 years? That's how you should be evaluating your tech stack. And so, I also give those warnings that we talked about. Migrating data from an EMR that you've outgrown, it can be a pain. We help with the data migration piece, but not all EMRs export your data really beautifully, unfortunately. And if you've outgrown your EMR because your practice has grown, I'd probably assume that you don't have a lot of free time to learn a new system and train your staff. Um, and Optimantra is set up for you to grow your practice. We have marketing capabilities. We have that great patient communication features. And so, we actually ran a study this past year that showed that when a practice starts using Opti, they grow 37% on average in their first year.
Wow, no
So,
way.
yeah,
That's
it's an
awesome.
incredible stat. We wanna be your, like, growth partner, and so when you're
Yeah.
evaluating these EMRs, think about, like, long term, where do I see my practice, and do I want the headache of switching over in 6 months when I've outgrown this smaller platform? So, uh, it's definitely a mindset thing, and I think some of the people I've spoken to are like, "Oh gosh, I haven't thought about, future services or, am I adding telehealth? Do I wanna do e-prescribing?" And so it comes down to we might not be the best fit for you, but I do implore you to think a little more long term.
Yeah, that it's a great response. I can again even speak to that part when we first started using Optimantra, it was, again, I took the onboarding class and I was just wowed by the whole thing. It was very intimate, and lots of great questions were asked and answered and all that sorts of stuff. Funny enough, like 6 months later, I'm hiring on my first, receptionist, my first staff member. I'm super nervous. I totally don't have the time to do anything, it feels like. Immediately Optimantra was like, hey, no problem. Here's the onboarding class. Like, we'll get her in, and like, she'll want to take these specific classes based on my business. And she walked out of there like knowing the EHR better than I did. You know what I mean? Like, she was totally ready to rock and roll. They taught her things that obviously, not that they didn't teach me, but things I wasn't focused on. I was never, a receptionist, so to speak. I was trying to do all the whole NP thing. So it was just really cool to see. Again, you're right. Like, you don't have to sit down. You're not going to spend, as a provider, 8 hours trying to train your staff on using this EHR. Like, it's baked in to Optimantra, which is so cool. And again, even the growth factor. Like, when I first started, I had basically 0 patients. Then I had 5. Then I had 10, and then all of a sudden I have 50, and then 100, then 200, and I couldn't agree more. Like, sure, could you do this? I don't know, cheaper? Your guys' price point is insane still, by the way. It's totally insane. Could you do it cheaper? You definitely could. But like you said, okay, that's great until, if you plan on getting busy, which I hope you do if you're a business owner, like in 6 months, you're going to turn around and be like, dang it. Now I'm totally outgrown this crappy, cheap EHR, or it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to upgrade to the next one, where I could have just started with Optimantra and made this a whole lot more simple. So, anyways, I won't belabor the point, but I couldn't agree more with you. I experienced it firsthand. I've pushed so many providers towards utilizing Optimantra, and again, I tell everybody, like, EHRs, they some of them maybe look sexier and have cooler things and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's really just going to come down to, how functional is this for you and for your patients, right? At the end of the day, that's what's going to matter the most. And Optimantra, I swear, you guys you knocked it out of the park with that every single time. So I'm very appreciative of you guys and our relationship. Lauren, if people want to learn more about Optimantra and maybe explore a little bit and all that sorts of stuff, like, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so right on our website, which is just optimantra.com, you'll have access to an interactive demo right on the homepage, so you can click around and get a feel for what the system looks like. We also offer a free 15-day trial, which is essentially your platform. You're able to customize it exactly how you want. And then we also have a demo walkthrough, so that one-on-one session with a demo specialist who will kind of walk you through anything you might have questions on, and give you the guidance on if this is the best tool for your practice. And then additionally, you'll also have access to all of our support options before you're even a client. So we have daily support hours, we have that phone line, we have the ticketing system, you'll have access to our knowledge base. So you really get a good feel for, is this right for my practice within the first week?
Amazing. For anybody else interested, even you can go to hrtuniversity.com. Optimantra was really kind, and they, being partners with us, offered an amazing discount for those of you, again, who might be fence sitting, or maybe thinking about pricing or whatever. Like, really, we both want you guys to join this, because it's really that important. We think it's an amazing product. I stand by it 100%, and I have for years. And I'm, again, very thankful for the relationship we have. So, Lauren, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's great to have people like you on, just to kind of talk about these things. These are things that, it's like a pillow. We spend every single night on it, and yet a lot of times it gets kind of lost in the weeds, but this is really super important. So, again, thank you very much.
No, thanks for taking the time. Thank you for all the kind words, and we've really appreciated the partnership. We've met a lot of really great folks coming out of your university. So keep up the good work on your end as well.
Thanks, Lauren. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you at the next episode. And again, if you're interested in learning more about Optimantra, check out optimantra.com. Also, don't forget, we have a discount for you. It's totally free. If you go to hrtuniversity.com and check out preferred vendors, you'll see Optimantra there, and you'll see the discount. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.